Let not your heart be troubled. You are listening to the Sean Hannity Radio Show podcast. So like many of you, I have trouble sleeping. I have insomnia. No matter what I tried, it wouldn't work until I met Mike Lindell and I got my very own MyPillow. It has changed my life. What makes MyPillow so different is MyPillow's patented adjustable fill. In other words, you can adjust the patented fill to your exact individual needs so you get the support you need and want to help you get to sleep faster and stay asleep longer. Just go to MyPillow.com or call 1-800-919-6090. Remember, use the promo code Hannity. When you do, Mike Lindell will give you his best offer ever. Buy one pillow and get another one absolutely free. MyPillow, made in the USA, 10-year unconditional warranty, and it has a 60-day, no-questions-asked money-back guarantee. You have nothing to lose. So it's time for you to start getting the quality of sleep that you've been wanting and we need. Just go to MyPillow.com or call 800-919-6090. Promo code Hannity. Take advantage of Mike's special 2-for-1 offer. MyPillow.com, promo code Hannity.
All right, welcome to the Sean Hannity Show. I'm Dan Bongino at DBongino on Twitter, filling in again for Sean. Thank you to everyone for having me back and all of you listening on it. Hope you like it. Got a good show for you today. Before we get to that, on a very serious note, we had a really horrible situation out there in the state of Washington with this train derailment. Here's just a quick news update on what we have regarding this. So 2 cars fell onto I-5. They don't have a cause yet. Some interesting Twitter traffic out there about suspected causes, but there's been no official cause yet for this tragedy. Looks like 6 people have died, maybe more, obviously, in an incident like this. That's always subject to change given on the condition of some of the folks on the train. Looks like up to 70-plus casualties. Again, cause unknown. As we hear more during the show, if we get any news updates, we will most certainly put them out. So, yeah, God rest the souls of those folks and their families. I hope they have the strength to get through this really tough time. So if we get more, we'll let you know. Big news day today outside of that. Trump just concluded what I thought was a really spectacular speech, folks. Now, of course, none of that will be covered by the media. They'll cover a story about how he likes extra salt on his French fries. He prefers Old Bay on ice cream. He gets 2 scoops of Old Bay ice cream while everyone else gets 1. Or it'll be some ridiculous story about how he watches Fox and Friends in his pajamas or something like that. They won't cover any of the substance of the speech because they barely do ever, and it's pretty sickening. So I want to get into some of the core things he put out in the speech and some of the accomplishments throughout the course of the show the Trump administration has to hang their hats on that have been completely ignored by the media in the course of their Russia, BS, nonsense, garbage narrative, which I think is sickening me and everybody else out there outside of the whole liberal ecosystem. So one of the things I pulled out of this speech he just gave, it was a national security speech about our national security strategy to set it up properly and to be a little bit more precise here about our ongoing, under the Trump administration, our ongoing national security strategy. And one of the things he brought up, which I think is fascinating, especially for the Russia crowd out there, Marsha. Remember that? Did you Brady Bunch watch it when I was a kid? I used to love that show. Marsha. The Russia crowd out there is he called out Russia and China specifically as challenging our national interests, both our prosperity interests and our national security interests. Now, to all the nutbag, Looney Tune, kooky liberals out there, does this sound like, again, a president who is deeply involved in a collusion conspiracy to destroy the United States from within? Like he's walking around in the background with Boris Karloff and maybe David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson doing some horror movie X-Files morph? He called them out in a nationally, most likely internationally televised speech, the Russians and the Chinese, for challenging our national interests, our wealth interests, our prosperity interests, and our national security interests. Does this sound like a guy who's some kind of Russian appeaser? I mean, to our liberal listeners, and I know we have them. I know because I'm on Twitter and I get your crackpot responses to all this stuff. I have to deal with it all day. I mean, does that make any sense? Like, I don't understand. Like, when you look in the mirror and you try to reason with yourself as a sane human being, does that make any sense to you? That this guy's some big colluder with the Russians and just gave a speech on our national security interests and our strategy going forward, and he makes a point to specifically call out Russia? Folks, you can obviously sense a bit of frustration in my voice. I do this every day. This is my job, conservative content. It's really getting frustrating now dealing with the liberals and their fascination with this. We have had a litany of positive news, good things that have happened on the economic front, on the tax front this week, on the court appointments front, on ISIS getting stomped all over the world. And this fascination with this Russia thing is just infuriating. Let me go through a couple of things. I had a bit of a checklist here about the positive good news you're probably hearing very little, if anything, about, again, because the media and their liberal acolytes, these boot-licking media liberals who are just obsessed with kissing up to the liberal elites and their Hollywood buddies, won't tell you the truth. Did you know we've had 2 consecutive quarters of 3% GDP growth since the Trump administration took office? 2 consecutive quarters. Keep in mind, this is from an administration where most of the liberal elites in the media and liberals said, oh, if Trump's elected, the stock market's going to crash. Who was it? Was it Krugman? The tweet's still out there. Paul Krugman, the New York Times, fake economist. He put out there, someone's got a screenshot of it, I'm sure, somewhere, of Krugman. I'm pretty sure it was him saying that we would never reach 3% growth or that the stock market was going to crash. That was it if Trump got elected. Now, listen, I'm not one of these. I prefer more to focus on economic growth than stock market numbers because those can, the stock market can fluctuate for a number of reasons. But we've had 2 consecutive quarters of 3% GDP growth in the country. Folks, under Barack Obama, I know Sean talks about this all the time, but it's a fact. We had the worst recovery from a recession in post-World War II history. We never reached 2% growth annually ever. Ever under Obama. Do you know he's the first president in American history to never reach that target number of 3% GDP growth? That's been the historical average, meaning if you're a reasonable person, he was a below average president when it comes to economic growth. But you'll hear almost none of that because they're so taken and in love and married to and in bed with this false Russia narrative as a means and a vehicle to discredit the duly elected president and to drain his political bank account, folks, that they will not allow you, these media folks, to hear about anything else. Including today, as I said during this national security speech, where he put forth a national security strategy going forward in direct contradiction to a president who was somehow in bed with Russia and taking Russian interests before America. That's ridiculous. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Second, folks, Gorsuch, the appellate court judges, circuit court judges. We are seeing a boatload of high quality, strong, originalist, constitutionalist judges getting appointed to the courts. Folks, it pains me to tell you this, all right? But unfortunately, we live in a society now where black-robed judges have become the new legislators of our time. Obviously, that was never the function, that was never the idea of how mechanically the country was going to move forward under the Founding Fathers. Judges were supposed to rule on the legality and constitutionality of the law, not rewrite the law themselves. We've seen that change. It is now, I don't agree with it. But unfortunately, through 8 years of Barack Obama appointments and some terrible Republican appointments to both the Supreme Court, the appellate courts, and the circuit court level, we have had judges now who take it upon themselves to legislate from the bench. Trump gets into office, and in conjunction with a lot of people, some outside folks, he took some good advice, and I applaud him for it. He appoints finally some conservative originalist judges, and we're finally starting to get back some semblance of law and order on the bench, not legislating from the bench. Originalists who actually read the law and make their decisions based on what the 4 corners of the bill say. They don't try to read people's minds. Red tape. Disappearing in droves. Trump, I saw a piece of, was it the Daily Signal today? They said that since he's got into office, something like 644 regulations have been wiped out, 200 have been put on hold, and another 700 have been permanently delayed. These are red tape regulations that are going to allow bureaucrats to have their say over your life. Let's tell you a quick, interesting story here. So I was at an event once. Sorry, just got up. Yeah, my iPad timed out on me for a second there. I was at an event once with this very smart guy. He used to be the Howard County executive. This guy, Chuck Ecker. He was an interesting guy. And I'm at this event, and I'm asking him about regulations and the power of government and the bureaucracy and why the bureaucracy just never stops growing, ever. And he said something to me I never, ever forgot. He said, Dan, He said, remember this, the bureaucracy will always grow because there's absolutely no power in yes. In other words, there's no power in a government bureaucrat showing up to your house and telling you you can do something. There's only power in them telling you they have the regulatory power to tell you no, and why is that? Well, it's very obvious when you think about it. Then you have to do something to get to yes. What business guy wants to go into a business negotiation knowing the other party's going to say yes all the time? It's good for you, but it's terrible for him, right? The government wants to be able to say no to you. That's the principle of their negotiation to get your individual liberty away. They want to be able to say no. That's their power, to say no to you, to say time out, review, we're going under the hood for review. That's what regulations are for. It's the growth of the bureaucratic discretionary state. Who would have thought that Trump, who was, listen, let's be honest, was not a doctrinaire conservative, but when he ran for office, who would have thought Trump, of all people, would have understood that? He gets in office and starts wiping the slate clean. Did you see that press conference they gave the other day? A lot of it's for TV. We get that. I mean, he does a good job at that kind of stuff. But he puts up this mound of regulations and paperwork they got rid of. The Federal Register is shrinking for the first time, meaning the power of yes is back because the government's eliminating regulations that give it the power to show up to your house and tell you no. This is the first president in a very, very long time to understand this, to finally get it, that the power of the state's not just through laws, not just the power to tax, not just the power to send your kid to a school they want to send your kid to, even if it's a crap school. It's not just the power to take your money, to tell you what kind of health care you buy. It's also the Waters of the United States rule, where they tell you what kind of stream you can have in your backyard, or the joint employer standard, where they tell employees their franchises even when they're not, or that they have to pay, if they have to capitulate to these union demands even when they have nothing to do with the employees, other than some, weak relationship through like a consulting type thing. These are all ways for the government to tell you no, that Trump, of all people, figured out. But you're not going to hear any of this stuff because they're obsessed with this Russia scandal. All right, I got to take a break. If you want to give us a call and chime in, 1-800-941-7326. That's 1-800-941-7326. I'm Dan Bongino, at DBongino on Twitter. If you want to comment, criticize, whatever, we take them all. We'll be right back.
Hey, the countdown is on, and if you're still struggling to find a gift for everyone on your list that they're guaranteed to love, you need to go visit my friends at 1-800-Flowers.com. And right now, when you order a dozen Merry Red Roses, well, it's only $29.99. 1-800-Flowers will give you another dozen absolutely free, and that's 40% off the original price. Now, 24 Merry Red Roses. It's a perfect last-minute way to surprise the people on your holiday list. And this beautiful bouquet, 2 dozen vibrant red roses, will leave everybody on your list stunned without spending a fortune. Now you get a dozen Merry Red Roses, $29.99, and another dozen absolutely free. So when it comes to life's most important holiday moments, trust my friends at 1-800-Flowers.com. Now to order a dozen Merry Red Roses and get the extra bouquet for $29.99, just go to 1-800-Flowers.com. Click on the radio icon, put in my last name, Hannity. That's 1-800-Flowers.com, promo code Hannity for the people you love.
All right, welcome back to the Sean Hannity Show. Dan Bongino, at DBongino on Twitter, out of the bullpen, filling in for Sean. Time I fill in, I think of that. Was that Dazed and Confused Matthew McConaughey when he's like, all right. That was the movie, right? Someone tweet me, or Lauren, you remember that? Did you see that?
I remember him saying it at an awards show.
That's his thing, right?
Yeah. I don't know if it's from a movie as well.
It is, right? I thought so. Someone will tweet me, I know. All right, so before the break, I was talking about how Trump just wrapped up his speech, his national security strategy speech, which I thought was a good one. And listen, folks, I'm not a cheerleader for anyone. I get it. Liberals are going to say, yeah, you're a conservative. Of course, you're going to support the president. I support him, yes. But I'm not a cheerleader for anybody. But it was a good, solid speech, where he, by the way, called out international adversaries like the Russians and the Chinese on multiple levels. And it just seems to be entirely counterintuitive to a reasonable person that if he's some kind of colluder with the Russians, that he would give a speech basically going after the Russians. But, liberals with the, the Fax vaccine. It's like when they're kids, they're vaccinated, like mumps, measles, rubella, typhoid, Fax. The Fax vaccine goes right in. It's a painful shot, but they all get it. They're seemingly immune to common sense. So it's a good speech, but none of that will be covered. So in the last segment, I went through some of the accomplishments, and I ended up with the red tape, the assault on red tape that this administration is undergoing right now, and I applaud them for it. The Trump administration, like few administrations in the past, has committed wholeheartedly to action, not talk. Talk is cheap. Anybody can talk. It's action that changes the world. They said, no, I want you to repeal 2 regulations for everyone we pass. And from what I read in a piece in the Daily Signal this morning, it looks like they're going to up the ante to repealing 3 regulations for every regulation they put forward. Folks, this is a big deal. This is a real cost in your life. Compliance costs. Compliance costs. I'm just talking about the hard compliance costs, not the soft ones. You may say, well, what do you mean? I mean hard compliance costs, like getting a lawyer, getting an accountant to have to get around or comply with the bevy of government regulations. That's the hard money. But what about the soft money you have to deal with? What about the lobbyists that use soft money to influence the path of government regulations so that those regulations don't hurt their companies, but do hurt you because you don't have a lobbyist? What about that? What about the distorting effects of that on the economy? Folks, he deserves a round of applause for this. I've even seen some liberals cautiously, and I'm emphasizing the cautiously portion of this on Twitter, because you never want to be caught as a liberal on Twitter defending the president being reasonable, because you will be Hester Prynne. You'll have the scarlet letter stamped on your head. You'll be thrown out of any community you live in, thrown out of your college. You'll be forced out into the desert all by yourself for 40 days and 40 nights. But folks, even liberals are starting to acknowledge that stuff is getting done while they have been distracted with this absurd, outrageous Trump-Russia scandal, which I'll address later with Mark Meadows, Congressman Meadows, and Congressman Jordan will be on later. And I'll also have Chris Hahn coming up later, liberal, who I like personally. He's a good guy, but his ideas are just a little crazy. But we're going to debate that too. So I'm not giving you any advice, liberals. You want to keep wasting your time on the conspiracy theory, Russia X-Files story, go right ahead. But while you guys are all distracted, we're rocking and rolling. All right, welcome back to the Sean Hannity Show. Dan Bongino, contributing editor over at Conservative Review, at DBongino on Twitter, filling in for Sean. If you want to give us a call and contribute to the show, liberals, conservatives, liberals, by the way, feel free to call. Lauren, right? We'll let you through. Lauren will not, as long as you're not totally, completely insane, we will let you through. You want to argue with me? You think I'm crazy? Give us a ring, 1-800-941-7326, 1-800-941-7326. Conservatives, too, of course. We don't want to hear 452 kooky liberal callers throughout the show. But you are welcome to call and challenge me on anything, because unlike liberals, conservatives can back things up with reality and facts, not just Fantasyland Teddy Ruxpin nonsense like our liberal buddies who live in a place we don't like to live. Money grows on trees. Government officials are these benevolent forces in our lives. Yeah, it's just awesome. I want to live there. Gosh. Woo, must be nice to be a liberal. So, the premise of the show here has been so far the news that's getting ignored while the media relentlessly, again, focuses on this Russia nonsense, which, again, is fine with me. You want to keep doing it, go right ahead. I am absolutely convinced that there's no there. I'm convinced that there's nothing there. I'm convinced because I've seen absolutely no evidence whatsoever, despite leaks about everything. You think I'm kidding? We've had leaks. I'm not making this up, folks. These are legitimate stories. They're not legitimate stories, but they're legitimate in that they've run. We've heard stories about how Trump watches the morning news in his pajamas or like a bathrobe or something. That was a real story. We've heard leaks about his proclivity for Diet Cokes and McDonald's. Yeah, that actually happened. We've heard stories about just about every one of his personal likes and dislikes. But it's amazing we've heard no stories about actual evidence that this Russian collusion thing exists. So while you've been distracted, we've had two consecutive quarters of GDP growth, explosive job growth, a growing stock market, which I'm always cautious about, to be fair. We've had ups and downs in the stock market under all presidents. We've had terrific, with a capital T, appointment in one case to the Supreme Court, and appointments to the appellate courts and the circuit courts, which are moving along at a nice pace right now. Listen, I'm not a huge McConnell fan. I think that's, out there. But I got to give them credit for at least that. They've at least picked up the pace a bit on the Supreme Court, the appellate court and circuit court nominations and getting through them. Red tape. The cutting of red tape has been amazing. But here's another one that I think is going to be transformative in the future going forward, that the Trump administration will not get credit for, but will be attacked for. So in case you missed it, last week, Ajit Pai from the FCC, they they voted on getting rid of the net neutrality rule. Now, net neutrality is one of the most comically named government initiatives you're ever going to see. There's nothing neutral about it, okay? Some conservatives magically got suckered by this thing. I don't know how. I don't get it. I mean, introducing the government into via Title II to control the internet as some kind of a common carrier, allowing the government to control the internet is the antithesis of every single thing conservatives and libertarians stand for. There's a small number of them, granted, but there were even some conservatives that defended this thing.